Hey there friend, thanks for clicking on the video, I really appreciate it. Now, let's get to business. Now in this video, I'll be sharing with you 6 ways that you can use to 10x your focus while you study. Now let's get into the video. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you have an exam coming up in just a few days? You try to study, but it's almost like for every 1 hour you study, only to eventually find yourself doing Instagram, TikTok, and something really interesting happens. Around the time when you want to study, Facebook becomes appealing for no apparent reason, and you scroll on Facebook too. And it's 2 hours and you find yourself chatting with your friend on a God knows what. At the end of the day, you tell yourself, oh, I studied for 8 hours today, while in essence, for every 1 hour you studied, you had about 2 to 3 hours of downtime doing basically anything else apart from studying. Now, if you've been in this situation before, I completely get you. Because, let me let you in on a secret. I've been there before. And while in my limbo, I discovered tricks that helped me improve my focus. And by the end of this video, I have a strong feeling that it's gonna help you too. Now let's get into the video. Now, a really significant way that you can improve your focus is by, drumroll please, sleeping. Yeah, I said it, sleeping. Now this is because when you do not get the right amount of sleep, it actually reduces your willpower. Now this is because when we have very low levels of sleep, we actually do not allow our prefrontal cortex to function at its maximal capacity. And for those of you who don't know what the prefrontal cortex is, one of the main functions of the prefrontal cortex is that it controls our abilities to say no. Basically, our willpower. To actually say no to distractions and sit down to say yes to doing the main thing. Now, more than just damaging your prefrontal cortex, and have you ever been in a situation where you sleep for, let's say, 4 hours or 3 hours in a day? If you've ever attempted that, when you wake up, it's almost like you feel woozy. Now, people call this brain fog. Now, when we are actually in this state, it makes it basically almost impossible to actually learn, or okay, I won't say impossible because anything is possible, but it makes it really difficult to learn anything useful or tangible in that mental state. And if you're a student and you think cutting the level of sleep that you have is going to actually help you learn more, I'm sorry to break the bad news to you, but it's actually not. Because when you really factor in the fact that you're going to be studying in a really hampered state and factor in brain fog, I mean, cutting your sleep actually leads to an economic term known as diminishing returns, and whatever gain you are going to derive from cutting your sleep is going to be, diminished by your inability to focus, study, or remember things. And also, fun fact, lack of sleep really affects your mood. Your lack of sleep can actually lead to depression if not managed correctly. Now, another way that you can 10x your focus is by using what I call deadlines. Now, have you ever been in that situation where you have a project that you need to turn in, let's say, in a few hours, a project that was handed to you 3 months ago, and you didn't really touch that project until the deadline was the next day, and you find out that in a space of a few hours, you've managed to complete the amount of work that would have taken you 3 months. And if you're lucky enough, you actually submit it and you pass it. Now, what actually happened to you right there was something called the Parkinson's Law. Now, what does this law state? Now, this law basically states that work expands to fill the time allotted to it. Now, if you give a particular project 3 days, you will finish it in 3 days. And the same project, if you give it 3 months, you will finish it in 3 months. Now, that is just basically Parkinson's Law. Now, when you use deadlines, it literally makes you to allow this law to work in your favor, because you can easily set a closer deadline that you can use to finish that task and move on to something else and do something profitable with your life, instead of having this looming thought of doom in your head saying, oh my God, I haven't completed this project, while you do other things. Now, using deadlines is actually a surefire way to actually quadruple your focus, because it creates a sense of urgency. And when you have that sense of urgency, it's a whole lot easier to do things faster. It actually protects you from wasting time, from doing distracting things that don't really profit you in the long run. Now, this use of deadlines even transcends the field of academia. You can even use deadlines in your own personal life and in your goals, because when you have a deadline for setting goals, it makes that goal a whole lot more concrete, because you know definitively when you are meant to achieve that goal, compared to when you have just an ambiguous time just hanging around in your mind and not really focusing on a particular day, and allow the Parkinson's Law to actually work against you. Another way that we can improve our focus is what I call skin in the game. Now, personally, I actually like to call this putting your money where your mouth is. It's basically a pre-commitment towards achieving a goal. You can actually use this technique in anything you do, from completing a project to making a YouTube video like this one. You can actually tell your buddy and say, hey bro, if I do not complete this assignment within this set time, I'm going to give you $150. Or another way to actually make the stakes a whole lot higher is if you make an agreement with your buddy or accountability partner and say, if I do not complete this task or this project within this set time, I'm going to donate a certain amount of money to an organization which I completely and utterly do not agree with. A perfect example is maybe the KKK. Oh, wow. I get the chills just thinking about it. Or maybe even a pro-Nazi group. Yeah. Now, the thought of you losing money, and not just losing money, but losing it to an organization which you are completely opposed to is, I mean, the focus will come. You don't even need to force it, it will come. I personally, losing money is not really a strength. Now, I came across a really interesting quote from Dean Graziosi, which goes along the lines of, when you pay attention. But in this case, the prospect of paying actually forces you to pay attention. Now, this tip requires some balls. So grow a pair and put your money where your mouth is. Oh my God, that will make a perfect ad, but I digress. Now, another tip, I mean, this is quite obvious. Close distractions. You cannot really go forward when every time you try to move forward, you take 10 steps back. Honestly, I've been there, I've done that, and I won't blame you, because the times that we live in is basically an epicenter of distractions, ranging from TikTok. Oh my God, TikTok, like, the people that designed that app, like, honestly, they deserve an award because, wow, that is a distraction masterpiece. Like, wow, tech companies are smart. I'll give them that. But when we actually get distracted, we engage in something called context switching. Now, this is basically when you are doing one task, and because there's a certain distraction, you shift your mind to another task, your brain automatically adapts to that new task. And when you actually drop the distraction to actually return back to your previous task, the level of focus which you had initially is not going to be the same level of focus that you're going to begin with. Your brain will actually need to literally adapt again to that initial level of focus. And this takes about 30 to 20 minutes to get to that initial level of focus. And when you can do this continuously, switching from one context to another, you're not really going to make as much progress as you would when you're focused on just one thing. Actually, that's where the difference lies, because it can spell the difference between spending 1 hour trying to complete a project to spending 5 hours to complete that same project because of a 30-minute distraction. Now, a good way to actually eliminate distractions is by, first of all, I mean, many people are scared to do this, but I mean, going on airplane mode or do not disturb. That is the most simplest hack to actually eliminate every form of distraction from that item of distraction, which is your phone. Now, another way is by taking your phone out completely, because I mean, some people might not really have the resistance or the wherewithal, even after putting their phone on do not disturb, because of a growing habit from actually not fondling their mobile phones. If you fall within that category where you cannot just do without your phone, it's better to actually just take it out and just take it out. Take to a different room or put it in your bag and just snatch that back somewhere and don't look at it until you're done. Or another way you can actually eliminate distractions is by logging out from these apps you find distracting, like maybe Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I mean, any Reddit, any app that you find takes more of your time. Just the simple act of actually logging out can actually make it a whole lot more difficult to get distracted, because the reason why you log in the first place is because it's frictionless. You can easily just a single tap and you're in the app. But if you add another layer of friction when you have to put in your username, your password, a two-way verification system and all that stuff, it actually creates friction that makes that habit a whole lot difficult to continue. Now, another way you can actually improve your focus is by using what I call mental dumps. Now, this is basically when you are doing your task or reading or writing, anytime you get a distracting thought or something you feel, oh my God, I need to do it immediately, you can easily write it into your mental dump or your brain dump on your piece of paper or on a phone. So when you are done with what you're doing, you can easily go to that mental dump and look at what is actually worth checking out. Because sometimes when we are actually engaged in something, it's a whole lot easier to get some really weird thoughts like, oh my God, how do snakes reproduce? Because when you are doing something important, it's actually at that period where you actually get some really interesting questions like, oh my God, why are chihuahuas so small? What is in the genetic makeup of chihuahuas that actually make them so small? Some really random stuff like that. Yeah, weird, I know, but they come up while you're actually focused doing something. And you can just make a brain dump, and when you're done doing what you're doing, if you really want to look for why chihuahuas are small or how snakes reproduce, if you think it's worth your time, you can just go in there. Now, the importance of a brain dump is that when we do not have a brain dump and these thoughts just randomly come up in your head, they eventually become distractions and keep you from focusing 100% on what you want to focus on. Because thoughts like these are quite difficult to go away. And when you dump them somewhere, you actually subconsciously, you know, in your head, you know that, okay, I at least have some way to release this curiosity I have, so you can actually continue what you're actually doing with 100% focus. Now, the next point is setting checkpoints. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, this basically means having intentions when you are doing a task. Now, having an intention for studying can basically mean, okay, I want to study 2 topics in this subject, or okay, I want to read 25 pages in this book, or I want to write down 5,000 words in this writing session. Basically means setting checkpoints or milestones while you perform your tasks. Now, if you play a lot of GTA, you will notice that there are 2 ways to play GTA. We have the free roam game and we have the mission-based game. Now, if you decide to play GTA and you are not really focused on completing the missions and you decide to just going around killing people, carrying machine guns and just spraying it on people for no apparent reason, you can actually spend 5 hours playing GTA and not have accomplished 1 mission because you decided, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and play GTA. When you have in your mind, okay, I'm gonna kill Joey Zaza in this session, you actually have a mission for that game, for that session, and you eventually complete that mission of killing Joey Zaza compared to if you just came to the game and just played free roam. In 25 minutes, you can actually have accomplished killing Joey Zaza compared to having spent 5 hours riding around town, killing people, blowing up cars, and not really completing any mission to move you forward in the game. Okay, this was a really weird example, but I think you get the point. Joey Zaza. Cool name though. Now, this is a very, very underrated topic, but in essence, it's actually one of the most important aspects of productivity or self-improvement that you can actually ever undergo, because you cannot really accomplish much without a high level of focus. Now, because the major difference between someone that lived 1,000 lifetimes in just 1 life and someone who lived 1 life but did not really accomplish anything is basically the ability to have 100% complete and utter focus on a task. Because you cannot really exceed your own expectations or the expectations of those around you without the singular ability to focus. And guys, if you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps with the algorithm. And if you like this video, you may like a video somewhere on the end screen. And remember to always keep it real. Bye guys.